My name is Cassie Summers. Welcome to the Curious Universe podcast. Well, I have to do something about love because it's Valentine's Day week, my friends. Oh my gosh. Where do we even start with this? There is so much we could explore together on love, self-love, what Valentine's Day even means to you. I mean, I never really bought into the hype personally. I always kind of thought it was silly. And a lot of people use it as blah, 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 blah. Easy for me to say. A lot of people use it as a way to judge themselves or to kind of compare themselves to other people's lives. So, for example, you go out, maybe you're going out to a restaurant and there's all these people and they're like on these romantic dates and you're like, oh, I'm single. I must have failed love. I must have failed in this area. Some people they don't want to spend Valentine's Day alone. I never understood that. But that's not wrong. If that's you, that's not wrong. But let's break this apart a little bit and let's really look at if it didn't mean anything, if this day of the year didn't mean anything, then you could just use it or lose it, essentially. It's when we make something mean something, that's when we kind of get stuck into a limited place with it, right? It's the meaning, which usually kind of equals significance, that creates all of these check boxes. So everything that is, we just got to clear that energy right now. I'm going to use something called the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement. If you want more information, please go to theclearingstatement.com. I always have a link in the description below about it, but it goes a little something like this. It's everything that is, everything that brings up for you, or maybe lets down for you. Will you destroy and uncreate it, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all 9 shorts, boys, povads, and beyonds. So that's just a magic wand. It clears energy. If you want more information, check out those links. So here we are exploring love and Valentine's Day, and dare I say, exploring receiving. Because receiving is just a topic in my universe recently, like in a very different and new, intimate way, but also something that I notice more than ever, how much we don't receive and the things that we do to keep us from receiving. So let's take Valentine's Day. If you make it mean something, then you actually are limiting what you can receive from it. But we are taught that you have to make meaning out of everything, right? Like you want to mean something to your partner, because what have we decided? If I don't mean something to them, then they wouldn't care if I lived or died. It's the meaning that is keeping us together. It's the meaning that, that validates the relationship. That's actually not true. You can acknowledge the gift of something and it doesn't mean anything. So I could acknowledge, like I could walk by a tree and know I will never see this tree again in my life, and acknowledge the gift of that tree in the world, on the planet, in my space in that moment. And in that acknowledgement, I'm receiving and I'm gifting to this tree. And I can walk away and be like, wow, what a beautiful experience. And it doesn't mean anything. Now, I could turn that experience into it meant something. Just so you know, I am like the biggest, like, recovering hopeless romantic that you probably ever met. So for me, everything means something. Everything used to mean something. Like, imagine living like a 12-year-old girl forever. Be like, he looked at me in this certain way, and that means this certain thing. And it could be an insult, or it could be they must be in love with me, you know? And it was like I was always searching for meaning in everything. And you know what's funny is that sometimes it's like they're not even looking at you. They're looking in your direction. They're out of focus. They're thinking about something. Sometimes you have food on your face. Like, sometimes it doesn't mean anything. But why do we want it to mean something? Like, why do we yearn for that? Do you yearn for that? And if so, what are you actually yearning for? What is actually true beneath that need of meaning? Woo! Whoa, that's another big one. I don't know if you sense that energy, but it's here. So everything that brings up and lets down, would you be willing to distrain and create it, please? Right, wrong, good, bad, POC, bod, all nine shorts, boys, pomades, and beyonds. All right. Let's go in a little bit. Can we go a little more with the meaning? Because I get this could actually create a lot for anyone willing to have the freedom of having something being meaningless. Yeah. So everywhere we've been so taught that meaning, that meaning is substance, and that meaning is the same as acknowledgement, which it is not. And that meaning is what holds things together. Wow. And everything else you bought that meaning was going to do that it doesn't, would you be willing to distrain and create all that, please? Right, wrong, good, bad, POC, bod, all nine shorts, boys, povads, and beyonds. What if meaning actually is a limitation? What if, okay, so let's take this tree example. So I have this exchange with this tree. And if I'm like, you know what that means? That means that the earth sees me. Or that means I'm really good at communicating with trees. Okay. So I've attached some kind of meaning to this experience. Now, what if there was actually something different going on? What if I had opened up a capacity that I hadn't noticed or acknowledged? What if in that exchange with the tree, I actually healed a tree behind me that I didn't even notice? What if nothing happened and I was like just having a little drama in my head? Okay. If I've attached this meaning and I'm focused on this meaning, I can't perceive the things that don't match it. I can't receive from the things that don't match it. So I couldn't actually receive the capacity that I opened up to because all my attention is on this meaning, what I've decided it meant. You see what's going on here? Or I couldn't, this other tree that I healed, I would never acknowledge that I healed that tree and have the gifts of what that acknowledgement would be. Because I'm here with this significant meaning. This is all that I can have, is this little box. That's it. Now let's take this into the romantic world for a minute, because that is harder to look at for most of us. So let's say, you're like, just going to do like a little scene. We're sitting at a bar and you're sipping your drink and you look over and there's a super cute person, whoever you're into, guys, girls, whatever. And they like look your way and you're like, oh my God, that means blah, 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 blah. Right? Probably we're going to get married and have kids and have a white picket fence. And what if what was actually going on is that you looked like someone that they recognized, or they were looking at someone else, or they were looking at you. They would really love to have sex with you, but maybe not relationship. Or they would like all of these things, but they would be a terrible partner. You would hate your life with them. You can't have any of that awareness because the meaning is so solid and dense that that's all you can have. This means we're going to get married. Well, there's no question of like, would you actually enjoy marrying that guy? Sure, he's good looking. You've never talked to him. Maybe he's an asshole. Maybe he's terrible in bed. You don't know yet. But this means something. Oh my God, this means something. This means something. What does this mean about me? If this means something about you, do you recognize that you're actually allowing other people to define you based on the meaning you're attaching to yourself, based on the interactions you're having with others? No, thank you. No. Other people don't get to define you, put you in a box unless you like that kind of thing. You get to choose who you show up in the world as. You get to choose the value of you. I know a lot of people will, oh my God, here's a great example. Okay, so I'm like in, I think it was in Florida. I think this was Florida. Yeah, I'm in Florida and I'm about to facilitate this class and I'm so excited. And this class had like a lot of really different energies, kind of like a buffet with foods that don't match each other. You're just like, oh, there's just a lot of different foods here. And it was like, oh, so I was like very, very excited. And then we were running late. So I was co-facilitating with someone. They created us late for class. And that is something that I feel like it can be very dishonoring for the participants. So I was like, all this stuff was coming up for me. And I'm like, oh my God. And it was like, guys, it was like 5-10 minutes late. It wasn't like anything insane. But I don't like being late. And I especially don't like being late when people have come to receive facilitation from me. And so I'm in the bathroom and I'm like in a rush, having all of this like awareness coming up and then my own stuff about being late and trying to clear that so that I could be more present with the participants. And I'm washing my hands and there's someone in there and they're like, hi. And I'm like, hi. And it was like pleasant. People say hi to me all the time. Strangers say hi to me all the time. And I kind of thought it like somewhere in the back of my, all the stuff going on, I was like, that person kind of looks familiar. And then I'm like, what? And I'm like jetting out like literally as fast as I can to get into the room because we're running so late in my universe. And I'm like, I wonder if they're a class participant. And I get into the room and lo and behold, they are a class participant. And not only are they a class participant, they're someone that I've been engaging with and communicating with for like a month. And someone I was actually so excited to meet in person. And I told her that I'm so excited to meet you in person. And I was so excited to meet her in person. But our encounter, she took that and she was so vulnerable and beautiful and willing to bring it up later, that meant something to her. The way I treated her like a stranger. And it actually didn't mean anything. It just truly was like everything I described going on. And then afterwards, when I got to be present with her and hug her and acknowledge her being and the gift of her being at that class, it was so beautiful. And I was so grateful that she did bring that up so we could clear it. But how often does this stuff happen and we don't clear it and we don't bring it up? We don't let it go. We attach a meaning to it so that we can file it away, that it decides certain things about us and certain things about the world and people and certain things about the person that interaction had with. And if it didn't mean anything, then you could have clarity. You could have more clarity on the whole situation. And it probably meant something for her to meet me. And because I didn't match what that meant in that moment, it crushed something for her. Luckily, we were able to clear that and have like some really beautiful engagements. So what has been crushed in your world because you made something mean something and it didn't come in and match that meaning? when maybe it was actually could be something even greater. Everything that is, will you destroy and create it, right, wrong, good, bad, pop, bad, all nature, boys, puppets, downs. So now let's go back to this love, to this Valentine's Day, to whatever this is for you. If it didn't mean anything, what could you have available? And I know this is actually going to come out the day after Valentine's Day, but that's okay, because you can just look back and you can go, did I make that day mean something? And here's the other thing. Okay, we're going to get into that in a second. Did I make this day mean something? Did I get crushed in some way? Have I avoided it? And then the other thing is when you decide something is meaningless. That is different than just being open and having no point of view. Okay? It's like you think if you turn it, like you flip the other side of the coin, you're like, okay, now I'm free. But you're actually just in the same box. You just turned the face that you're facing, right? So if you decide something's meaningless, like, I don't even care about Valentine's Day, it doesn't even mean anything. Do you sense that energy? I'm totally still attached to it. I still have decided it has a meaning, and then I'm resisting that meaning, which does not allow me to be free, does not allow me to be the space of like anything is possible, whether it's Valentine's Day or not. Love, here I am, shower me, I am open, I am receiving. No. You've just flipped the coin. So everything you made meaningless about encounters, celebrations, holidays, yourself, or anything else, would you be willing to destroy and create that too? Please. Right, wrong, good, bad, pop, bad, all names, shorts, boys, povets, and beyonds. Because to make something meaningless, you have to have already decided that it has meaning. To acknowledge something as just, oh, that's just an interesting point of view, or acknowledge something that is to actually be functioning from this space of no meaning. Woo! Yeah, wow, cool. So everything that you made meaningless as a way to disconnect from what you made it mean. Will you destroy and create that, please? Right, wrong, good, bad, pop, bad, all natures, boys, povets, and beyonds. I see this like in different areas. For example, for some people, sex, it means so much. It's just, it has a lot of meaning to it. And then they decide at some point, like, I'm going to make it meaningless. And then they just start going and having sex with like all sorts of people, pretending that it doesn't mean anything, while secretly having this kind of like yearning, or this like, it's almost corroding their body and their being, because they're trying to prove that it doesn't mean anything. And they've decided and tried to solidify that it doesn't mean anything. But what's actually true is it means a lot to them. They've made it mean a lot. And it's okay. You can have things. If you want things to mean something to you, I'm not saying you have to get rid of that. But you might want to look at, are there things that you've made meaningful that if it wasn't, would actually give you more freedom and space with that? I can have sex with someone and completely, just like with that tree, like completely acknowledge the gift of them, be so grateful, be so present, and never think about them again. Not from they weren't valuable. They were such a gift to me in that moment, but it didn't mean anything. And it wasn't, I don't require to like bring it forward into my life, like dragging the past forward. It didn't mean anything. It didn't, yeah. And I don't, and it's not meaningless, because in that meaningless, I can't receive the beauty and the gift of that exchange. And I'm not willing to have sex without receiving. So what have you made meaningless that isn't actually true for you? That if you're willing to look at what it means to you and clear that meaning, it would actually set you free. Right, wrong, good, bad, pop, bad, all natures, boys, povets, and beyonds. And again, that doesn't mean, so I'm just going to do this one last thing. We're going to get off soon, because I probably feel like you maybe feel a little fried from this conversation. If I've never talked about, maybe we should do a whole podcast on what is it to be fried. But it's usually that feeling where you feel like you can't like follow the conversation anymore. You're just kind of like nodding and receiving, which is beautiful. There's nothing wrong with that. Maybe you need some sugar, salt, water. You suddenly feel tired. That's kind of that fried thing. So here we go. If something doesn't have a meaning to it, it doesn't mean that you don't care for it. Doesn't mean it's a lack of caring. And so what are these energies you've attached to meaningful, like caring or presence or acknowledgement? What if that doesn't mean any of that? What if a meaning is just what you make something mean that it doesn't necessarily mean? If you were to say, let's say you did have a beautiful romance this Valentine's Day and it changed your world. What if you had an interaction with someone romantically or otherwise and you're like, oh my God, like I'm just different now. Like my space seems bigger. There's so much possible. Maybe you're like, I would love to spend more time with this person. Or, oh my God, what would it take for them to be like my life playmate? Like, do you see how open that is? And there's so much caring, and you can be like, oh my God, I have so much caring and desire to. And I had, in my example, I'd said I never think about them again. That doesn't mean that I never think about everyone that I've had sex with. There's some people I think about all the time, but not from because it meant something, that one exchange, but from this continuous gifting and receiving of energy. Like that one tree I might not ever think of again, but there's certain trees that I've engaged with, and I literally still like 6 years later, that tree will come up in my awareness and I will gift and receive with it. I'm so grateful for this tree and everything that it showed me. Just as much as I'm so grateful for someone that I have sex with and everything I received and was able to gift in that moment. But not from meaning, not from significance. Because that is a contraction of possibility. So what could you have? I hope you had a most beautiful Valentine's Day. And if not, redo it. Maybe take yourself on a date. Or maybe just ignored it because it doesn't mean anything to you. And this year, it just wasn't light to really choose anything in that area. That's okay. Again, that's not resisting Valentine's Day. That's not making it meaningless. It's just acknowledging, oh, yeah, not really required for me to celebrate this. This doesn't actually expand my life to put my attention on this holiday. I'm not gonna. Get the difference? I hope this was a contribution to you. And it might be a re-listen. Really explore in your world what comes up for you throughout this, and are you willing to keep using that access conscious clearing statement? Keep clearing out the energies, so energies can come up of like upset, anger, frustration. Let them come up and then use that clearing statement. Everything that is right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all nine chores, boys, poets, and beyonds. What you're doing is you're clearing out that space so then you can finally get to, oh, what's true for you. That's my desire, is for you to have more consciousness and more access to what's true for you. However that shows up. Thank you for joining me in the curious universe. Bye for now. Thank you for exploring the curious universe with me. Your curiosity matters. And what if together we could create a greater, more curious world.